Hey guys, it's Melissa with Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. I wanted to talk to you today about speaking your truth. I know we've talked a little bit about this in the past, but something happened to me the other day, and I felt that it was really important to talk about this once more. So, many of us in life, especially if you're an empathic person, we tend to be people pleasers just naturally. And so when we are acting as people pleasers, we tend to do what other people want us to do or to say what we think other people want us to say, which in the long run is going to make you very frustrated, and you're not living your most authentic life, and you're going to end up being miserable because you're going to, again, be very resentful that you are not living the life that you want to live, that you're not speaking your truth. And you're just not going to be living your best life possible. So I had a situation the other day. I am in the process of writing a book, which I know I've talked about on here. So in the book, I detail just a little bit about my ex-husband and our marriage, and kind of what happened that led to the demise of the marriage. And it's, I don't go into super specific details. And when I was writing it, I consciously didn't put in a lot of detail about that because I wasn't trying to bash my ex. That wasn't what it was all about, and I didn't want anyone to think that that's what I was trying to do. And I also knew that, there was possibility that my children might eventually read this book, and I didn't want them to think bad things about their dad, so I censored myself. And then I was talking to a mentor of mine about the book, and she said, "Why are you doing that?" And I said, "Well, I don't want my children to read anything bad about their dad, and I don't want him to think that I'm trying to bash him. And, we have off and on, we had a fairly decent relationship that we could get along, it comes and goes. But for the most part, it had been a pretty good working relationship and trying to be there for our children. So I didn't want to mess that up." And then she looked at me and she said, "Why are you doing that?" And, I'm sitting here thinking, I just told you why I was going to do that. And she said, "Well, do your kids know about any of the details that happened during your marriage?" And I said, "No, they were they were a year old, little over a year old. They didn't know anything about it, and I haven't shared with them anything about it." And she said, "How old are they now?" And I said, 16. And she said, "Don't you think they're old enough to handle that?" And a light bulb went off, and I thought, yeah, I guess they are old enough to handle that. And she said, "Don't you think they deserve to know what happened? Do you have a relationship with your children that you can be honest with them?" She said, "Because, you can do it in a way that you're just stating facts and you're not really giving emotion to it, and you're just trying to let them know what happened from your side." And I said, "Yeah, I guess I could do that." And she suggested, that I call on Archangel Gabriel and Archangel Raguel before I had this conversation with them, because they are the archangels in charge of communication and keeping the channels of communication open and clear so that there are no misunderstandings. She said, "Do all of that and then have a talk with them." And I said, "Yeah, I'll do that." Because she said, "You need to include this, you need to include the detail in your book, because you may have someone sitting out there reading your book who is going through exactly the same thing that you did. And if you sugarcoat the details, they may not recognize that they're going through exactly the same thing. But if you put out there those details, all the things that you went through, they might make a connection with that, and that might encourage them to leave, or might encourage them to realize that they're going to be okay because they're going through exactly the same thing you did." And it was like, oh, that makes sense. That makes total sense. So I agreed, yes, I need to do that. Yes, I can do that. I can do that. And I'll be totally straight up honest with you, that was several months ago, and I put it off because I didn't want to do it. And so finally, I felt the nudge the other day, like, you really need to do this, and it's getting closer that this book is, it's going to be out soon, and you haven't edited it because you didn't talk to them yet. So I set my intentions out there that, I needed to have this conversation with them. And of course, I dreaded it, and the reality was way, way easier than what I had built up in my mind, which is generally the case, isn't it? We tend to make things way worse in our minds. If we actually lived out the stories that we told ourselves, life would be horrendous, but most of the time we imagine things are worse than they actually are, and we bring about our own problems just because we fear things are going to happen, and so we're calling that in. And then that's kind of what I was doing. I was so nervous, and I didn't want to talk to them, and I talked to them, and everything was fine, and made them understand that I'm not at all in any way trying to bash their dad, that this is just the truth, this is what happened, and this is why I made the decisions that I did, and I wasn't always right, but this is why I had to do what I did, and I think they understood, and so then I was able to go in and edit my book so that I could add in those details. And it was an incredibly freeing experience to be able to speak my truth, because I know that that is one area where I have consistently had to do work. Being a people pleaser, wanting to always, I was, in my family, I was the one who kept peace and order because I was the middle child. I wasn't the baby, I wasn't the oldest, I was the middle child. So it was my job to make sure that everybody was getting along, and at least, I don't think that was never a spoken rule for me. That was the rule that I took on. That was the role that I took on in my family, that I felt like it was my job to be the peacekeeper. And so that's what I did. And I know there's a lot of people out there probably just like me. We all take on roles in our family, and we all have certain family dynamics. And for me, my role was peacekeeper. And I took that role very seriously. So I was constantly trying to edit what I said, watch what I said, revise what I said to make sure that my words were not harsh. And in a lot of ways, I was stifling myself and blocking my own throat chakra and not being able to speak my truth because I was too busy trying to please everybody else and make sure everyone else was happy. But I wasn't happy. And it's taken a long time to realize that. And I know that there are a lot of people who do this in some capacity or another. Maybe you're not the peacekeeper in the family, but maybe you are a people pleaser, and maybe you do this without even thinking about it. Maybe when a thought pops into your head, you think to yourself, is that going to hurt someone's feelings? And then you don't say it because you think it might, which is what people pleasers do. Is that what they're going to want to hear? Then if not, maybe I need to change what I was going to say. And the problem with that is that you don't get to speak your truth, and it's like being in prison. You feel like you can't be yourself, and so it's a very frustrating feeling. You build up a lot of resentment towards other people because you want to be able to say what you want to say and not have to worry about if it's going to make someone else happy or not. So for me, the last few months, that's one of the things that I've been working on, is trying to speak my truth more and not really worry what other people think. And that's an incredibly freeing thing, is to not care what others think. When you don't care what someone thinks about you, says to you, that is freedom. And it's not many of us are able to experience that kind of freedom, because we've all been programmed to care what other people think, to try to please other people. And that really doesn't serve us very well. It causes a lot of us to be stifled in our own creativity and not be able to do the things or say the things that we want to do and say, and causes a lot of anger and resentment to build up, whether you realize it or not. So I would highly encourage you to take a look at how you behave and how you communicate with people. Are you speaking your truth? Or are you censoring what you say because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings? Because I would bet you've got a little bit of that censorship going on. I know that I definitely did. I didn't have a little bit, I had a lot going on. And now I just have to get to the point in my life where I realize not everybody's going to like me. There's probably a lot of people who don't like me, and that's okay. I'm all right with that. I'm not trying to purposefully go out there and cause people not to like me, but it doesn't matter what I do. I could be the sweetest person all day long, up and down, give until I can't give anymore. There's still going to be somebody who doesn't like me, because there will be people who don't like people who are nice because you're annoying to them, because you're so positive, you're going to get on their nerves. That's just how people are. There are people who are not happy unless they're not happy. They have to find something to complain about. And those are the kind of people you just have to let go. We just have to not worry about those people. The only person you need to worry about is you. How do you feel? What do you want? That's what you need to worry about. That should be your number one choice. Your number one concern should be you. And there are going to be people who don't like that. When you start taking care of you and you start ignoring what they need, there's going to be people who don't like that. Because there are people who are out there who like taking advantage of people who are nice and who are people pleasers. You'll find people like that everywhere. But it doesn't matter, because the people who genuinely love you and care for you will not care that you're standing up for yourself. Remember, we talked about how sometimes, in order to make room for better things, we have to let go of things and people who no longer serve us. And we should not feel guilty about that. Not one bit guilty. So I hope that you will take time to start being an advocate for yourself. Speak your truth, whatever that is. Not be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to step into your light. Those who love you won't mind. In fact, you'll probably be amazed at how much they support you. I know I was. I hope you guys have a fabulous day. And if you're interested at all in growing spiritually and learning how to manifest abundance and happiness, check out A Purposeful Pilgrimage. I can't speak today. It is on sale right now. Go check it out on my website. The link to my website will be in the description. And if you are interested in Reiki, you can also check out my website. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. Leave some stars, leave comments on iTunes. Love hearing your feedback. I love you guys. Take care, and I will talk to you again soon.